Was vomited in a trash can. Woke up with really bad neurological symptoms. Stomach is on fire. Acidy esophagus. And of course, I'm shaking. And after 25 years of the neurological condition, and after 20 years of stomach issues that were very obvious to everybody in childhood on from all the pills and druggings, you know how I feel about this? I feel like I should teach the people responsible a motherfucking lesson. I feel like tying those motherfuckers up, taking those doctors, Big Pharma and my father, tying them up and rubbing their feet with the gimpy leaf. See how they like being in pain for a while. Of course, I would never do such a thing. I mean, hopefully I never would if I'm living like a squirrel for a year in the woods, having seizures on a weekly basis. I mean, I have infections. I'm all cut up. I can't remember my own name. I can't drive, use a shelter, use a hospital. I can't ever work. I can't collect my Social Security. I just have to live like a squirrel for the rest of my life in the woods. Winter comes, I start freezing to death. They scrape me off the cement, bring me back to the emergency room, release me, because once again my mother and father are responsible for lying to doctors, making up stories, so it's impossible for me to get medical treatment until they handle this and come clean with what they did to me. But my father wants that's his little dirty secret to go to my grave, so that's not really a possibility. But whenever I wake up on the side of the road from a seizure, all I can remember is who is responsible, because this has been going on since the time I was in New Mexico at age 9. Certainly no 7-year-old and 9-year-old is responsible for giving themselves a bunch of pills and then having an overdose. It's very clear that no 7-year-old or 9-year-old are responsible for the fact that their stomach is hurting when they try to eat food. They're vomiting in the morning. They feel sick to their stomach all the time. They're underweight. Then when they're 16, they're vomiting every morning because the antibiotics are setting off the sensitive stomach that he already has. You're bumping in the furniture all the time and your mother's trying to make it into a mental illness. You're bumping in the furniture and your doctor's calling your doctor, calling it self-harming. And now I had to take one of these this morning called the Zofran. I'm going to have to make bay leaf tea. And I'm living in mold, but that's better than where I'm going soon. I'm going to be pushed off the grid again because obviously I can't keep on injuring myself for money. I obviously can't collect my Social Security because my father already did and kept the money based upon lies and made up stories. So when you have all that and you can't walk, drive, move your body properly, and you spend hours every morning with your head in a trash can, and you've been doing this since what, age 7? Yeah. At age 7, I wasn't able to eat much. There was the overdose. There was doctors trying to help me. There was physical therapy, speech therapy. The doctors were very worried about the movements of my body and my loss of weight. I couldn't eat anything. My body didn't seem to move properly. Then my mother and the doctors were just about to help me. They were just catching on with what's going on. I'm only age 7, so I have no idea, but the doctors are just about to figure it out. And my mother pulls me out of the doctors, pulls me out of the teachers, finds a way to move me to Texas, even though I'm a ward of the state, and I get moved to Texas. Things start going well. I don't really feel too good still. I'm still wearing jackets when everybody else looks at me like I'm funny because I have a neurological disorder. When it gets windy or cold, I feel it, so I'm putting on jackets. And I feel kind of embarrassed about that. So at the doctor's office, I mentioned when this all started, I mentioned the overdose again. Oh, I shouldn't have done that in front of my mother because now my mother's going to hurt me again. She's going to cut off all doctors again. She's going to cut off all teachers again. But see, at the age of 9, I just wanted help with my body. We're at the doctor's. I'm telling the doctor what's wrong. But I did not realize my mother was a fucking lunatic cunt who was willing to kill a child to cover up her own mistakes. I didn't know that at age 9. So I just told the doctor what was wrong in front of my mother. Then my mother cut off all doctors, cut off all teachers, and put me in a place where there's no doctors and no teachers. Then, After that's over, you think they get me doctors and teachers? You think they try to get me an education or maybe figure out why their son is always sick to their stomach, really dangerously underweight, and he's shaking, putting on jackets, falling to the ground during fireworks. He has some type of problem where he shakes and falls and can't stand up. It seems like he's in pain. This is very obvious to my parents because I'm on the ground shaking, screaming in pain. Do you think they do any? Nope, nope. They bring me to Maine and they watch me shake on the ground during fireworks. They just watch it. They bring me into the car, bring me home, put me in bed. No ambulance, no hospital, no doctors, no teachers. My mother's gonna homeschool me, she says. Okay, after that, we certainly must be getting this taken care of, right? I mean, we now have like 4 or 5 years since the overdose. We must be. I mean, their son has been talking about it in Texas and Westford. He's now been cut off of all doctors for about 2 years. He's been cut off of all education for about 2 years. I mean, certainly they're going to bring me to a doctor and start talking about this overdose and get me help, right? No, no, of course not. My mother's gonna bring me to a psychiatrist and try to get me on lots of pills I don't need to try to cover up her mistake. Then I'm gonna vomit some more, bump in the furniture some more, shake some more, have some more seizures that I don't even know are seizures because I'm unconscious for them. So all this is gonna keep while my mother gives me Thorazine, Seroquel, Trazodone, Lamictal, Risperidone, Xanax, Ritalin, and they even put in lithium for a short amount of time. And she tried to get me on Zyprexa, even though the doctors told me I did not need it. My mother kept on pushing for schizophrenic medications, even though the doctors, the teachers, me, everybody told my mother I'm not schizophrenic, but she didn't like that. She wanted that cover story, so she kept on pushing it. She even got mad at me and slapped me around because I wouldn't go along with her fantasy. Yep, I was playing with action figures. My mother came over. She told me to lie and go along with her fantasy. I said, no, that's a lie. I'm not going to lie. My mother got mad. So, no, no, no. When I tell you to do something, you do it. Even if it's not true, you do it. And I said, no, I have a kid across the hall. I know what that is. That's a lie. And then she says, no, no, no. You do what I tell you. So of course I try to walk away again, like people tell you walk away. So I get up and I start walking away, and she's following me around the house, wagging her finger, screaming at me. No, you tell the doctor this lie. 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 And I cannot get away from this woman screaming at me, telling me to go and tell the doctor I need this pill and that pill and this pill and that pill because of this made up thing and this made up thing and this made up thing. And by this time, all the doctors, all the teachers, all the parents, everybody told my mother that I'm not schizophrenic and I don't need to be drugged on those pills. But yet, every so often, my mother would try to push the doctors or me to get that. This was the one disorder that my mother was so pissed that didn't work. My mother wanted me drugged on Zyprexa with all the rest of the pills. But no matter how hard my mother tried, she couldn't convince anybody to drug me with schizophrenic medication. But boy, oh boy, did my mother try. She told the doctor I was schizophrenic. She tried to convince me to say I was schizophrenic. She tried to make up stories like playing with action figures means you hear voices. She was trying to confuse me. She chased me around the house screaming at me that when she says jump, I need to jump. And when she says I need to tell the doctor something, then I need to tell that doctor that thing. This is the only reason why I wasn't drugged the shit out of Zyprexa, is I told the truth. But I did not realize my mother was so full of shit that I would have pain and suffering for the rest of my life. I mean, I knew my mother was a crazy nut who was full of shit, but I had no idea she was full of shit with my doctors all the way back to age 7. But now that I'm an adult and I realize this is not a fucking allergy attack at age 7. I mean, that is full of shit talk. I mean, when your kid loses his vision, breathing slows down. I mean, my mother administered me multiple medications. Just as the movie started, they kicked in. I lost all my vision. I couldn't even see the hand in front of my eye. It went blurry, more blurry, more blurry until I couldn't see at all. Now, Halfway to losing my vision, I turned to my mother, screaming, panicking for help. She calls the emergency people. Now, I can't stand up. I can't feel my hands. I can't feel my feet. I don't feel good at all. I can't talk. And I can't see out of my eyeballs. So I start crawling over to a pile of newspapers and I start trying to yell for help to my father, but all that comes out is, there's some breathing. So, anyways, my breathing is slowing down. As I go unconscious, they're telling my mother to bring me to the emergency room. She comes over, tells my father, they don't know what they're talking about, hangs up, and they let me sleep it off. Now, that's very stressful for me to go through. I don't like going through that. But now, let's use the evidence. My mother said that when we went to the doctor's office and I asked them, why my body has changed permanently, why are the teachers are asking why there's a sudden change in me. The doctors are, talking, what's this sudden change in your son? I'm talking about I was just given medication and something changed in me. I lost my vision, I lost my senses, I couldn't talk right. I'm telling them all this stuff, but it's way severe because I went unconscious as well. Okay, what does my mother call it? She says it's called an allergy attack. The doctor asked what medications was I given. She says she doesn't remember and we don't need to deal with it. And then she never talks about it again until I bring it up at the doctor's again. Now, let's go over the facts. I was administered medication by my mother. I lost my vision. I lost the ability to feel my entire body with my nervous system. My mouth was numb and I could not talk properly. I could not stand up or move. My breathing is slowing down. I can't feel the carpet under my hands. I get to a pile of newspapers and I can't even make a noise anymore. And I go unconscious as my breathing is slowing down. And then I wake up with my body feeling differently for life, where it's like I'm sucking on my skin and it no longer feels like I'm sucking on my skin. This 7-year-old has gone through something severe. Now, my mother says that that's just allergies, that's just an allergy to the medication. How many people believe my mother that is an allergy? Now, when I was age 7, maybe I just didn't describe it good enough. Lightning in the back and losing all your senses might not be the best description. But now that you have the symptoms listed, who thinks that that's an allergy attack? Anybody. Who thinks that a mother would give the medication list to the doctor when he finds out? How many people think a mother would be very worried about their son talking about this type of stuff at the doctor's? All of them. So, what really happened? My mother slipped me a pill. She gave me an overdose, and then she had me sleep it off because she didn't want to bring me to the emergency room and get caught for what she did. That simple. Now, do I have any more evidence to support this? Oh, I sure do. A little bit later, I ate a mushroom and my mother decided to give me extra medication as a punishment. Also, my mother said that she thought it was okay to slip a child medication. Also, during my adoption party, my mother slipped me a pill before we left in the car, and that kicked in and made me almost pass out on the floor again. So there was some medication my mother liked to slip me. Not only that, on Halloween, my mother wouldn't be getting her way. She would give me medication, I would get sick, and then my mother would get her way. Then the next year, my mother would not be getting her way. She would say, nope, 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 this is not going to happen. Everybody overrules my mother, and my mother's not getting her way. She administers me medication. I get awfully pale, vomit, get sick. And then my mother says, oh, Zach's sick. I get my way again. And this was happening every year. So there is lots of proof to my mother acting nutty with pills and drugging the shit out of me and doing damage to my body. This isn't no guess. I'm an adult now. I'm going over the same information. I just have better ways of saying it, and I got actual doctors and people working on me. I'm not going to move myself to New Mexico in the middle of doctors helping me like my mother and father did. See, once when the teachers figured out something was wrong and the doctors figured out something was wrong, we were maybe 2 years away from getting a diagnosis. But my mother and father moved me to Texas. Then as soon as I told the doctors I needed help with my body, they moved me to New Mexico. So of course, I didn't get any straight answers as they're moving me every 2 years until the age of 20 years old. And then I spent 4 years in the woods, and then I've spent like 6 or 7 years in this one spot. So this is the longest I've ever been in one spot. And I'm now 31, and I've still not received any help with this. I mean, my mother and father were really good at covering up their tracks and burying the truth. I mean, they buried all my medical records from Westford as deep as they could. I'm not even sure if we could get what the teachers were talking about. Who knows if there's even a report left? I mean, goddamn, that's been 25 years of buried lies, made up doctors, my mother borrowing money from my father to make up stories with a psychiatrist and then drugging the shit out of me. It's probably going to be impossible to get what the teachers were talking about or even any accurate documentation. Probably just say, kid said that he lost his vision and it was like what did I use the word at age 7? I said I lost my vision, I couldn't talk, and it was like I lost all my senses. And then the mother says it's called an allergy attack. We marked it under allergies, and the mother does not know what medications were administered, so we have it under a mysterious allergy attack. Well, that's not very descriptive, but the teachers could help with that because the teachers were bringing me in the hallway asking why my movements were different. Why are you different than before? So the teachers all saw the sudden change. They were with me for months before my mother drugged the shit out of me and destroyed my nervous system, and these teachers were with me after. The only problem is then my father and mother trafficked me to Texas, and then New Mexico, then Maine, then Massachusetts, then Haverhill, then Lawrence, then back to Chelmsford. Just everywhere they could keep me moving. It's impossible for anybody to establish care with me as long as my mother keeps me moving. And by the time she buried everything at age 12, it would be, I have to figure it out and tell the doctor. If my mother doesn't tell me what's going on, I have no hope of getting help until maybe my 30s, when I can put all the pieces together and talk to doctors myself. I mean, when you're an adult, you can start the process of figuring out your health, but while your mother is controlling, lying to your doctors, I mean, goddamn. I told one of my doctors that the meds were causing heart palpitation, vomiting, headaches. This was Seroquel, Thorazine, Trazodone, Lamictal, and Risperidone all put together at bedtime. I told them that my heart was doing a weird beat. I was getting a severe headache. I was vomiting. I was getting dizzy in the middle of the night, and I was getting spins like I was high as a kite. And the doctor says, "You got to give it more time. Let's go up." And he brought me from 300 milligrams to 600 milligrams. I told him, I said, you know that this weird heartbeat and the feeling of this sleep med is making me so scared and feel so weird that I can't sleep. Oh, then we better go up. And then he went up again. He wanted to go up again and up again. Every time I complained about deadly symptoms, he wanted to go up again. But that was when I was 16. My mother's calling these doctors when I bump in the furniture, telling them I'm self-harming. They know my mother's a crazy nut, and they know I'm only 16 and I'm taking a bunch of pills and I have no idea what they're for. I think that they're all for sleep. That's it. I just asked for help for sleep. That's all I asked the psych doctors for. I said, I want help with sleep. That's it. All these other pills were because my mother said I needed them. The only thing I ever asked a psychiatrist to help me with is anxiety and sleep. Anxiety in my 20s and sleep when I was only about before 18, any age before 18. And before 16, my mother just decided everything and confused the hell out of me. I mean, she was chasing me around the house, telling me to make up stories about schizophrenia, for goodness sake. That's why she died, too. Nobody wanted to handle her mental illness, so she was popping pills in the closet, drinking, and of course, that's not good for somebody in their 60s to do for a long period of time. So her liver went into failure, and maybe she could have done something to last longer, but she decided to drink while her liver was failing. 20% of her liver is all that worked when the hospital let her say goodbye and come home for one day. She blew past her family, went straight to the liquor cabinet, and started drinking with 20% of her liver working. That is what killed her. Drinking and pills in the closet.